the Gulf States newsroom, this is the Gulf States Gumbo, your weekly serving of stories from Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. I'm Deputy Managing Editor Orlando Flores Jr., chopping it up this week. On today's show, we're going to New Orleans' Lower Ninth Ward, where increasing temperatures there are driving up utility bills as air conditioners struggle to keep up.
It really does not affect everyone equally. I mean, that really is at the heart of the issue.
And an artist in the Lower Ninth has reclaimed her family's land by navigating city bureaucracy with the help of her community.
My intention is to plant a lot of fruit trees on them, fruit and nut trees.
That's all coming up on the Gulf States Gumbo. It's getting hotter in New Orleans. Summers are longer, nights don't cool down the way they used to, and keeping the AC running is getting more expensive. As public health reporter Drew Hawkins reports, for seniors living on fixed incomes, that heat can be more than uncomfortable. It can be dangerous.
Bright and early on a Saturday morning in August, Charles Johnson waits in a line that wraps around the building at the Lower Nine Food Pantry. It's just past 8 a.m. and it's already hot.
This heat feels like after a hurricane passed. You know, that's how it feels now, but it never was like that before, because when a hurricane passed, man, you got tremendous heat, and that's how it feels sometimes.
From where we're standing, you can see the mural painted over where the Industrial Canal flood wall breached after Hurricane Katrina, flooding the entire Lower Ninth Ward. Climate change helped make Katrina the devastating storm that it was. It's also making summers in New Orleans more than 4 degrees hotter since the 1970s, and making air conditioners have to work harder, racking up utility bills, taking a heavy toll on seniors with fixed incomes, like Johnson.
That's why I'm here in this line right now. I mean, with the prices of food and all the utility bills and stuff like that, it's kind of have to cut back on other things.
Heat affects seniors differently. The older we get, the less efficient our bodies get. We sweat less, get dehydrated more easily. The risk of heat stroke is much greater, and medical conditions can make it worse. And the heat can feel inescapable. Katrina destroyed more than 200,000 trees in the city, creating what are known as heat islands in places like the Ninth Ward, making it feel more than 8 degrees hotter. Johnson tries to use less AC at night to help lower his bill. But New Orleans is also seeing rising nighttime temperatures.
And I do get up sometime and just wrap it back up because it'd be too hot. It wakes me out of sleep.
What you spend on your utility bill versus how much money you have is a concept called energy burden.
And it really does not affect everyone equally. I mean, that really is at the heart of the issue.
Forrest Bradley Wright is the State and Utility Policy Director at the American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy.
If you're on fixed income, with less income to begin with, that's a much larger percentage of your total financial resources paying that energy bill.
A high energy burden means people may have to make trade-offs, spending less on things like groceries, doctor visits, and medications. For seniors, that can mean their health is put in even more jeopardy. Compounding the problem in New Orleans is the fact that many homes are older and less efficient.
Your AC and heat are responsible for about 55 to 60% of your bill.
Derek Mills is the manager of the Energy Smart program at Entergy New Orleans. He says for people with lower incomes, they can provide free efficiency upgrades to their homes.
We go from, pretty big measures like giving rebates on central ACs or to, things as small as just changing from incandescent light bulbs to LED light bulbs.
A more efficient home can help lower the amount of energy it uses, but it can't reduce the rates, the cost of electricity. Those are proposed by the power company, Entergy.
We need to make Entergy pay more.
Nick Laborde ran for a seat on Louisiana's Public Service Commission, or PSC. Now, there's an entire other story on what the PSC is and how it works.
It's one of the most powerful elected bodies in our state, but most people don't even know that it exists.
What's important to know is that the PSC regulates public utilities in Louisiana. If Entergy wants to do something like raise rates, it has to be approved by the PSC, except in New Orleans, which is the only city in the country that regulates utilities when there's a statewide agency in place. And those rates have gotten higher and higher, with additional charges for things like upgrades and repairs for damage caused by hurricanes.
We still have storm charges from storms less than 20 years ago. We'll have them for 20-ish more years, and we're going to get even more because hurricanes are still going to come.
For seniors with lower fixed incomes in New Orleans' Ninth Ward, it's a vicious cycle with no end in sight. For the Gulf States Newsroom, I'm Drew Hawkins.
Vacant lots still dot the landscape in the lower Ninth Ward, and these empty spaces are where homes once stood before Hurricane Katrina flooded the city 20 years ago. As WWNO and WRKF's Eva Tesfaye reports, one artist has reclaimed her family's land and has big plans to build something new. It's a garden rooted in her Black and Indigenous ancestry.
I'm standing in the northwest corner of the lower Ninth Ward, surrounded by a series of giant pyramid-like structures. They're 9 feet tall, made out of wood and burlap.
As we fill them in with soil, we will plant on them.
That's Ute Petite. She's a soft-spoken 29-year-old Black woman with long braids and big plans. And this is her garden.
My intention is to plant a lot of fruit trees on them, fruit and nut trees, flowers and herbs, like all perennial things that will kind of hopefully live long after I'm here.
The garden structures are called mounds, and indigenous people built them up and down the Mississippi River, often for ceremonies. Petite says the garden structures will honor her great-grandmother's indigenous Homa ancestry. But the garden will honor her Black New Orleans ancestry too. And there's another layer to this. Petite's story is a rare example of how a Black New Orleanian family, decades after Katrina, got their land back. Petite grew up in Detroit, and she often visited her great-grandmother in New Orleans, who used to own a house on this very land.
I always joke because like older Black people, they always love to like shut themselves in and have the blinds drawn. So her house was like that. Like I used to get in trouble because I'd be like, can we let the sun up in this place?
The last time Petite visited that house, she was 10 years old. It was just a couple of weeks before Hurricane Katrina. After the storm, she says the house was completely gone.
Her house floated like 2 blocks down when the levees broke, because the levee literally broke right there and the water just came.
Her great-grandmother had evacuated to Tennessee. She died a few weeks later at the age of 96.
I feel like the stress of evacuating and everything like really affected her.
Like so many Black New Orleanians, Petite's family couldn't return and rebuild after Katrina. The state-run program to help people rebuild favored wealthier property owners, according to an investigation by the Times-Picayune, New Orleans Advocate, WWL, and ProPublica. For poorer, often Black residents, the money offered by the state was less than the cost of rebuilding. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, roughly 40% of Black residents who left during the storm didn't come back. And in 2023, over 15 years later, vacant lots still covered 70% of residential land in the lower Ninth Ward. That's according to the data center. The Petite's land was one of those vacant lots. A few years ago, Ute Petite decided to reclaim it. But it wasn't easy. She says she first got the idea from her mother.
I was like, well, this is crazy because like the whole block is empty and it would be really cool to start a farm. And she was like, well, you should try and see who owns it.
The answer? The New Orleans Redevelopment Authority. The state created the authority after Katrina. One of its roles is to manage the city's vacant lots and put them back into use. And Petite got a little lucky. Turned out her land was part of something called the Growing Green program. It gives people a chance to lease land cheaply for 3 years for community gardens, urban farms, or parks. After that, they have a chance to buy it. Still, she says it was complicated. The paperwork was confusing, and when she got the lease for her great-grandmother's old land and planted a few trees, the city accidentally cut them down. She eventually managed to lease 3 other lots too. But then, when she wanted to buy the land, the price shocked her.
I want to say it was like 70 for all 4.
70K.
Yeah.
Wow. The price would have been okay if she was building a house on the land, she says.
But for farming, that's like robbery.
Petite wasn't the only urban farmer with complaints. After Katrina, New Orleans seemed like a prime place to do urban agriculture because of all the vacant lots, as well as the lack of access to grocery stores.
But a lot of the growers that I studied had a very difficult time finding and accessing the space.
Yuki Kato is an urban sociologist and the author of the book Gardens of Hope, Cultivating Food and the Future in a Post-Disaster City. It's about urban farming after Katrina in New Orleans. She says the state and the city put an emphasis on market solutions as a way to solve problems left behind by the storm, including vacant land.
How do we actually increase the property value instead of thinking about what is the best use for this for maximizing public benefit?
She says based on what she's heard from growers, growing green seems to be a way to get residents to maintain lots until the authority can take them back and use them for more commercial purposes.
I think it also really underscored that the interest was not to support urban ag, but was really essentially using urban ag as a way to temporarily manage until the property value increased.
Brenda Breaux is the executive director of the New Orleans Redevelopment Authority, the agency managing the vacant lots. She says they have a different goal in mind to help people.
To be quite frank with you, based on the current housing crisis, our primary focus with turning lots back into commerce has been focused on housing.
And New Orleans does have an affordable housing crisis. Breaux says they're also trying to improve the Growing Green program. They now tell farmers up front about how much they'll have to eventually pay to buy the lots. And they're trying to increase the number of lots in the program.
Our goal is to put properties back into commerce. And we recognize that housing isn't the only alternative that can be used for these vacant lots.
For Petite, there was no way she alone could afford to buy back her family's land. So other people and organizations helped her raise the money, including the National Black Food Justice Alliance. Petite says finally owning the land now feels surreal. Eventually, Petite wants her garden to be a meeting place where locals can hang out and make art. She also wants it to be a place that memorializes what happened during Hurricane Katrina, to her family and so many others. But most of all, she envisions it being a garden that feeds the neighborhood.
There's going to be fruit trees and flowers blooming at all different times of year. And it's just going to be a very abundant, nourishing place. And it's going to feel like an ancient memory, like the earth remembered and brought something back.
Petite says she's going to name the garden after the woman who once lived on this land, her great-grandmother, Vivian. In New Orleans, I'm Eva Tesfaye.
All right, now it's time for my favorite part of the show, Gulf States Gems, which is our chance to give a shout out to the things we love in the region. You just heard two stories from the lower Ninth Ward, so I thought it'd make sense to bring in economic mobility reporter Stephan Bisaha, who also did some reporting in the community recently. Stephan, it's great to have you.
Good to be with you, Orlando.
Believe when you were in the lower Ninth, you found something that was pretty vital to the community.
After Katrina, there wasn't really any grocery store there until Brunel Cotland decided to open up his own. It is a couple of aisles, but it does have the basics. It has your milk, your onions, your bananas, and it also has a snowball stand, barbershop. He's working on an internet cafe. He's doing a lot of work to really make the lower Ninth Ward feel like a vibrant community.
That was economic mobility reporter Stephan Bisaha. Stephan, thanks for joining us and bringing us this gem.
Thank you, Orlando.
This week's show is cooked up by the Gulf States Newsroom team. Our theme music is by DJ Supreme. Special thanks to our partner stations WBHM, Mississippi Public Broadcasting, WWNO, and WRKF. You can find us in your podcast feeds every Friday. Look us up and be sure to subscribe. Again, I'm your host, Orlando Flores Jr. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to stir your roux.